Welcome, riders, ridettes, and pillions. I'm Elliot, and this is the Van Blam YouTube channel. You join me in New Orleans, Louisiana, which is the first stop on my big spring 2021 trip out west with my Triumph Speed Twin. Now, I know this is not one of the places I said I was going, but I'll explain what I'm doing here. As I mentioned in my video announcing this trip, for the first couple weeks I'm traveling with my girlfriend. It just so happens that our birthdays are 1 week apart, my 30th and her... She lived in New Orleans for a few years and is very fond of the city and several of its inhabitants, so we figured that since we're taking that southerly route across the US to get to Arizona, why not stop in New Orleans and celebrate both of our birthdays? We've been here for a couple days now, having a great time, and I figured that, well, this isn't necessarily a riding destination, might as well take the bike out for a bit and show you guys some of the things that I love about this city and kind of talk about some of the things that make New Orleans unique from a motorcycling perspective. I want to apologize to everyone for the state of my motorcycle in this video. It obviously picked up a lot of crap and grime towing it here from DC, and I can't seem to find any self-serve car wash that takes any currency other than quarters. Before the first time I ever visited New Orleans, I didn't know much about it. I knew that it was a party city, but I thought that it was just like a trashy party city, you know? I thought that it was like Atlantic City, only sweatier. And while I was right about the humidity, I was completely wrong about the city itself. New Orleans is a very cool and special place with a really unique personality. The neighborhood we're passing by right now is the French Quarter, which, if you've heard of one place in New Orleans, that's it. That's where you find, you know, Bourbon Street and all that jazz. Oh, no, I said it. Shit. What I want to show you now, though, is a neighborhood that has really captured my heart while I've been here, called the Bywater. So this is the Bywater, and while it may at first appear to be a modest area, it's actually a lot of money around here. These houses are not cheap, even though they're old. But the value around here is being able to walk to a lot of really cool, interesting things. Things that are uniquely New Orleans. People want this culture and this character and this convenience and nothing else, and they're willing to pay for that. You can tell they're willing to pay by the quality of some of these vehicles out here. Now, there's not really any garages, mind you, so it's all out on display on the street, but New Orleanians with money know how to car. Anyone who owns a small house and one or more enthusiast vehicles is a person after my own heart. Combine that with the cool convenience of the whole neighborhood, and I guess that's why I like the Bywater so much. Alright, I have strayed way out of my wheelhouse on this video. Let's go talk about motorcycles. Check this out, we got a Ural with a sidecar and a genuine Stella with a sidecar. That is cool.
I want a Ural.
Yeah?
Are you selling it?
That's not mine. Sorry.
If your friend ever wants to sell it, I'll come by and knock on the door and leave a note. I want that Ural.
All right. I don't blame you. You too. Whenever people try to talk to me when I'm on my motorcycle, I can't understand them very well because I wear earplugs when I ride. So I think I just mistakenly led that guy to believe that that was my Ural, but he wants to buy it from me. Ooh, nice FJ09. Now that's a great New Orleans bike. So whenever I travel anywhere, I like to think about what it would be like if I lived there. Like, where would I want to live? How would I spend my time? And of course, what sorts of motorcycles and motorcycling would I enjoy there? Here in New Orleans, of course, where I would live is the Bywater if I had the money. But when it comes to motorcycling, this city presents a pretty unique set of challenges. And one is, of course, the weather. I am not somebody who tolerates humidity very well, least of all when I'm wearing a leather jacket. New Orleans has about 3 or 4 nice days a year, today being one of them. The rest of the time it is just hot and sweaty, and I'm not sure I could handle it all year round. And even if you're not bothered by humidity, your bike might be. Within 24 hours of arriving here, rust had started to appear on my chain, even though I lubricated it right before I left. This is just an extremely wet city, which is made even more of a challenge when you consider how few places have garages. Another challenge I would face here is that these streets are pretty rough. And I mean that literally. I mean the surface of the streets are very, very bad. Riding in some of these neighborhoods, even the nice ones, the ride quality is just punishment. Just merciless punishment. And perhaps the biggest thing that makes New Orleans a challenge for riding, at least for my kind of riding, is that it's fairly isolated. You know, out in Colorado and Montana where I'm headed, you go out your back door and you are immediately on some amazing twisty mountain roads. Around here, you have to ride quite a few miles before you get to any interesting mountain areas. I think if I lived here, I would find myself focusing less on the day-to-day riding and more on those long trips of a few days or weeks at a time. But it's not all doom and gloom for riders like me. There's actually a pretty nice racetrack near here, and I think if I found myself living in New Orleans, I would try to get into track days. Also, I have to acknowledge that part of the reason it's so painful to ride on these rough streets is because of the bike I'm riding. I think if I was going to live here and ride in town a lot, I would have to get some sort of a supermoto. Maybe that new Kawasaki 300 supermoto, or possibly even a Zero FXS, an electric supermoto. And lastly, to deal with the fact that this city is kind of isolated from most of America's great rides, I would just have to bite the bullet and get a touring bike. Maybe either a big cruiser or perhaps a sport tourer like an FJR 1300. Now you'll notice that in that 3-bike stable, a track bike, a supermoto, and a tourer, there is not a speed twin. As much as I love this bike and have no plans on ever getting rid of it, if I moved somewhere where it just made absolutely no sense to own this motorcycle, that is something that could motivate me to sell it. Hopefully it doesn't ever come to that, but just something to think about. I don't know, do I have any viewers from New Orleans? If so, let me know in the comments what you ride and what your experience has been like here. I actually met that guy right there at a bar the other night. The colorful van there with the cacti on it and the pop top. He was parked outside a bar I was at. The thing is actually for sale. If you're interested, DM me on Instagram and I'll give you the guy's number. Supposedly that street is pronounced Peniston, but they're not fooling me. While I'm out here, I might as well give you a little bit of an update on my motorcycle, aside from it being filthy, of course. I recently installed the Tech Bike Parts suspension kit for this motorcycle, both on the rear and the front. You should check that video out if you haven't already. But one of the things I noted about these springs was that they were pretty stiff, and they were supposed to be. You know, it's a cheap spring, it needs a run-in period. Some people say it only takes a couple hundred miles, other people say it takes months of riding. Well, I think trailering the bike helped smooth it out a little bit. I've towed it about 1,000 miles so far, and while that's not the 1,000 miles of running the engine or rolling the tires along the road, that is 1,000 miles of bumps being absorbed by the suspension. So I think that has helped to break them in a little bit. So speaking of the springs, some of you guys have been asking about passenger comfort after the swap. This is actually my first 2-up ride since installing them. Everybody say hi to Kota. I can't report yet on the handling out in the windy mountain roads, but I did notice as soon as she got on the back that it doesn't sag nearly as much as it used to. It's definitely stiffer. I would not say there's an improvement in comfort, especially not on these streets, but hopefully the bike won't feel quite as wallowy in the corners, and I think the reduced sag will help with that. So when I've towed this bike, I have struggled figuring out exactly how to approach the rear tie-down strap. There doesn't seem to be any good place to run the strap across the bike. I know I should probably do one on each side, but the ones I have are way too long. So I run it across, and in the past that's worn some of the paint here off of the pillion foot peg holder. And what happened this time is that the big heavy ratchet was resting against my muffler, the black muffler on the Speed Twin, and wore the paint away here. I actually thought that might happen and even put a washcloth underneath it to protect it, but still, by the time I got to New Orleans, that little spot had worn away. Now, I've always been indifferent about these mufflers. I know some people hate them and swap them out for, you know, some people's pulled off Thruxton mufflers. I personally could take it or leave it, but this, along with the little scuff I got a couple weeks ago when I dropped this bike in the driveway, kind of motivates me to upgrade these mufflers a little bit sooner than I may have otherwise. What do you think I should get? Should I keep it simple and affordable and get the British Customs Predator Pro? Or should I splurge and get the Akrapovich, whatever it is? I'm also thinking about making it unique and getting a pair of Zards. You don't see many of those. I do have a D-Cat for this bike that's not installed yet, and I just didn't have time to get it fitted before I left for this trip, so I'll have to do that over the summer. Well, anyways, guys, it's about time for me to wrap this video up. I've got a charbroiled oyster feast waiting for me tonight, so I've got to get back and get ready to head out. It won't be long before I'm back on the road, on my way over to northern Arizona to enjoy the awesome mountain roads there. I can't wait to see what's in store for me out west, and if you want to see it too, then make sure you subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. I'll have plenty more content coming about this trip and this motorcycle, so stay tuned. Until then, ride safe, and I'll see you back here for the next video. Thanks for watching. Well, I did eventually find some quarters.